how do you write great content and how do you come up with it fast and how do you write it fast? In this short video, I'm going to show you the 3-step process I personally use to crank out anywhere from 2, 3, sometimes even 5 high quality posts on Facebook almost every single day. It's the same formula and template I've used for my clients and made them over $30 million over the last few years. And so if you sell a product, a service, coaching, consulting, programs, courses, even e-commerce, doesn't matter. If you sell stuff online and you have an email list or a social media following, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, even YouTube, doesn't matter. This is the simple rinse and repeat 3-step formula you can use to quickly and easily write really compelling content. So let's dive right in without further ado. So there are 3 core elements. And the reason why we want only 3 is because there's so many different ways to write content. There's problem, agitate, solution. There's A, which is an old school formula from old copiers. I personally don't like it. What you want is something simple and easy to use, rinse and repeat for almost every single type of content. Now, this is only going to work if you're writing more value-based content. If you're just making skits or funny videos or telling even like a personal story, it's going to be a bit harder to fit this into this, but if you are giving a more value-based approach, then this is going to do fantastic for you. So here are the 3 parts to it, right? For every single piece of copy has a hook, it has a body, and then a conclusion or a CTA. That's it. It's super straightforward. So when you're writing your content, maybe your next post, you got to ask yourself, first of all, what is the main point I'm trying to get across here? That's always the big thing, right? What is the main point I'm trying to get across? And so for this example, let's say in the dog training niche, we're making a value post on Facebook, right? And maybe the point we're trying to make is that you need to have someone train your dog or else they're going to have a lot of problems, right? And by the way, the reason why it's so important to have the main point you want to get across is because I see all the time so many people will write about a bunch of random different things all in the same post, when really you want to be having one core idea that you're sharing with your audience, and then all of your copy, all of your content supports that. So for the dog training niche, right? So maybe the hook, something bold. One of the reasons why most dogs misbehave is because even though they went to training, they actually weren't trained properly. So that's the hook, right? Oh, okay, so if I'm a dog owner and my dog's misbehaving, I'm going to lean in and be like, okay, interesting. So that's the first part. We have the hook, right? Now the body is now you're expanding on that hook and you're making what's called your marketing argument towards the point you're trying to make, which is the dog's not trained properly. So maybe we'd say something like, most people think they're trained properly, when in reality, most of the time it's treated like doggy daycare, and you pay a couple $100 to a few $1,000s for your dog to be trained. And yeah, they're trained pretty okay, but they still have aggression issues. They still bark and they still aren't properly trained, potty trained. And so that's the body. And so we want to explain that and explain why that's happening. If you've been following my work for some time, I'm a big fan of the why and the what. Why something's happening, why it's important, and then what's happening and what should be happening instead, right? So instead, hey, when your dog's actually properly trained, here's what it can look like. And then you can, in that post, then explain how you would go about training. Not that you're trying to pitch your services, but say, hey, the right way to train a dog, most people do this. I'm not a dog trainer, so I have no clue what that even looks like. Oh, fetch, sit, heel, whatever. Actually, there is a certain level of primal instincts that has to be met when you're training your dog in order for them to actually obey you, right? Because otherwise, you're teaching them a few tricks for treats, and that works well, but it fights against their natural urges. And so what you have to do is, when they're being trained, you have to rewire their primal instincts. And actually, this works out really well for the dog because they're no longer, their primal instincts and urges aren't being fought against. Because think about it, when you live at home, right? Your dog is a small area. Maybe take them outside for a walk once, twice a day. When dogs in the past would run out for 3 hours. So this is actually rewiring their brain to actually like being at home more and not needing walks so much. Again, I'm just pulling aside my ass completely. But I've built this entire marketing case of why, right? Why most people train dogs incorrectly, and then the problems that come with that. And so we've covered the problems that come with that, and we've given you an example now. and we've shown you what life can look like. Hey, when your dog actually is trained properly using these methods I've explained, it becomes much easier, they're more docile, but also they still are fun and playful and great with kids. And then finally, you want to end with the conclusion or the call to action. Usually the conclusion I like to use is when you say, hey, the next time your dog is lashing out or doing whatever, it's not your dog's fault for doing that. They just weren't trained properly. So we want to have a conclusive statement that encourages people to understand and to reevaluate your main point, which is that your dog's probably not trained properly. And so the ending conclusion just helps support that. So it's one idea, which is your dog's not trained properly, right? We have the hook, which is, hey, if your dog is still misbehaving, they probably weren't trained properly, even though you put them in training camp, right? And then the body is, hey, actually, most training camp is just doggy daycare, and it goes against the dog's natural tendencies to be trained in this way. And so when I train with dogs, I work with their nature, not against it. And I create reward systems, let's say, that get the dog to want obey you, but still following their own natural inclinations. Again, I made this all up. And then finally, hey, so next time your dog is misbehaving, or conclusion, next time your dog's misbehaving, don't take it out on the dog. Just know that they haven't been trained properly. So have some patience, right? That is how I would construct a post for in the pet niche. Took this video 7.5 minutes at this point now, one take. That's how fast it can be. You figure out your hook, you figure out your body, you figure out your conclusion. And when you want to not only create better content like what I just shared with you here fast, and you want to start to get people seeing the value of your offer, a couple weeks ago I made a banger of a YouTube video on here. It's the most popular on here by far, has had some incredible feedback. I'm going to link it somewhere here. It's called The 7 Ways to Increase the Perceived Value of Your Offer. And if you haven't watched it yet, please do. I'll link it here. And yeah, thank you for watching.